What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Move Local podcast, brought to you by The Movement. My name is Dalton, and I'm super excited to be coming back with another episode this week. We're on a running theme. Last episode, we interviewed Russell Thacker from the Sulphur Springs Trail Racing team. This week, I have Andre Morgan on the podcast. I'm super excited to sit down with Dre because I've seen him in the running community. He's taken photos of me. If you're local to Hamilton and you run with any of the run clubs, you've probably run with Dre. You've probably gotten photographed by Dre. I'm super excited to get to know him a little bit more, dive into his story, and get into it. So, Dre, how are we doing today?
Not bad. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you reaching out. It's very coincidental. We pass each other on routes at races and stuff like that. We never had that conversation.
Yeah.
I guess this is the place to do it. Eh?
Yeah. First one, record it, you know. How I heard you got out for a run today. How did that go? It was good?
I got to hang out with my buddy Jacob. Just hit Tredoke, and so lucky to just have places to go. We were gonna do this long run somewhere else, but it's just like, let's hit Tredoke up and down, and just like very short. We got 5K out of it, but just to hang with a buddy, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I would love to dive into a little bit of your story and kind of get to know you a little bit more of what life was like growing up. Was running always a part of your life? Is that something you kind of found later in life?
Mm-hmm.
Take me through a little bit of that.
Yeah, I did find it later in life. Probably been running with crews for over 10 years now. And essentially I played soccer during college and actually high school here in Canada. I moved there from Jamaica in 2001, and in Jamaica there's this thing where if you're not a sprinter, then you just don't run.
Right.
So it's like, just be fast. So no one tried distance running, I think. So it's a missed opportunity. Where there's probably athletes there that are probably good at distance running and not know that they are, but it's not a common thing, so everyone does sprinting. So didn't do that there. We did all sports from cricket to soccer. Wasn't particularly fast. When I moved here as an adult, I just wanted to keep myself active after playing soccer and stuff like that. I got invited to a run group, and after being invited to a run group, after a few times, now I'm just gonna go hang out with friends.
Yeah.
You got over the rut of I can't breathe. Everyone's waiting on me. Then now you're just hanging out. Now you're being incorporated into something recreational, and I feel like so much of us just need something recreational, something else to look forward to. My professional career, I do IT. And there is something to be said about just having something else to look forward to outside of, being in front of a computer, especially back then. And that then now allowed me to open up to a whole other community in Toronto. And so that's kind of like my running thing. And I do it recreationally. And I discovered ultra running, which I realized I wasn't as fast, but no, I could go forever.
Yeah, it's funny. You go from the opposite end of the spectrum.
Yes,
of
there's
coming from a place of sprinting to the slowest, complete opposite of being out there forever.
I always say diesel versus gas.
Yeah,
you can just get it done. Fuel yourself, and it's just time on feet. So it's a different mindset, but also it's untapped. I think for folks that think that it's only road running is the only thing. It's like, man, but you can hit the trail forever.
Totally, yeah. So obviously running and the community of running is a big thing for you. What was that first run community that you found? Was that in Toronto? Who was that you started getting into?
Yeah, it was in Toronto. It was a crew called Dre.Run crew. They would start 8 at night, and the idea is that they would run the different murals, art stuff. So there was some interactivity involved where you'd run to a spot because there was an art thing there. So that, even where you leave work late and stay downtown and just get it done. So that was the introduction to it. There were other crews around that led me to discovering other crews. So for 7 days out of the week, you could go to a run crew in Toronto.
Yeah, every day you could be running with different
one,
crews.
Right? Yeah, and even more so now. And I think there isn't enough crews because they fit different niches and categories, whether it be early bird that runs super early, whether it be a crew that runs to a particular coffee shop or bakery. So they hit something differently for other folks. There are crews that because of Ramadan, they have to adjust the time that they run. So I think there's something to be said about just no matter what, as long as there's 3 folks that want to do something that matches a niche, that's a crew. But yeah, so Night Terror, and then a buddy of mine, Bernard, we started running a lot more together, and would go to different cruises on different dates, and that's how we got our training.
Yeah.
No plan.
Don't need a program.
No,
just go to
show
every
up.
run
Yeah,
through.
show up and like what you feel for today, and it's all chill running, and as a result, you get better at it.
Yeah.
As a result, now you want to do a race.
That's a good point, because like I think a lot of times people get this idea of like, I need to do this program, I need to be going crazy, I need to like have this race on board to get fit. But you know what I've learned from just running, because I got into running probably 3 years ago, is like the consistency of running is what gets you the most fit.
100%.
So it's like if you can go to a place where you're connecting with different people, it's engaging, it's keeping you there, and you can just do that for a consistent period of time, like you're probably going to get pretty fit
as a result.
In the result of it.
As a result, just by going. I've came across something recently, and I was like, man, it'd be good to just ask folks this. There are people that would take 6 months to a year looking at an Instagram account. They want to go to the run, and they'll look at it. And look at it, and never got to go because they're like, oh man, they're so fast, and they don't see speed on Instagram, but they're gonna be better than me, and then they count themselves out. Unfortunately, the folks that just started and did that in the group, they get fast by just being in the group. So they do shift where they are. So it's welcoming, but for the new person, they need a 101 on how to do that. So it just shift registry where the more people that come in, eventually they get faster and faster. So you need like almost like a beginner course again to get those folks new in. So the research of how long it took them from when they discovered it to when they actually show up, sometimes a year.
Which is crazy. Because like think about how much fitness they could have gained by just coming and just running.
They could have been the fastest person there. So I've been hearing stories, and I was like, man, that's so interesting, because and also depending on your personality. Whether you're someone that is outgoing and you don't mind saying hi to someone that's a stranger, or you're very reserved and you'd rather just be nudged, someone send you a direct message and kind of like handhold you to the whole process. Because most conversations like, oh, I don't want to hold anyone back.
That's always the thing.
But we all say it's welcoming and we bring everyone in, but you need to take even one more step back and like meet folks where they're at. Whether they like to be communicated with through DM compared to if I just make a post, just show up. Some folks aren't.
Some people need a little bit more.
They need a little bit more like, I'll talk to you in person.
I
get that all the time. I invite them to an event. They're like, oh, when I see you. It's like, all the details are here. But they're like, no, when I see you, we'll talk. And it's like, you're not selling it, but they want to hear from you. Like, when I see you, we'll talk about it. And you just got to meet people where they're at.
Totally. That's such a good point. You mentioned like running in the first run group to like different like art places around the city and stuff. And, one thing that drew me to you, and obviously with the photography, and I would call that like a creative, artistic side of you, I would imagine. So has that always been something that like has been part of your life? And like, how did you end up transitioning, doing a lot of the digital creation kind of stuff that you're doing now?
So I was meant to go to school for arts, and I had an uncle who's just like, no, you got to be an engineer. So I took electrical engineering, finished that. The end of it, I still dabbled in Photoshop and things like that for whatever reason. I built websites and stuff like that just to play up the art with the technical. And fast forward, now I'm part of these run groups. And I was like, that logo kind of needs help. But no, I'm like, oh man, but I could create this thing or pitch a deck and show. So I then wanted to get involved in that part of it. Now, I didn't start taking photos until maybe 5 years after I started running. And
so what year would that be? Like what time frame are we talking?
I think I started running like maybe 2018.
So not that long ago.
Not that long ago.
Yeah.
Not that long ago.
Yeah.
And I'm so bad with dates. That's
Yeah,
why
me too.
I
But like,
away.
I was trying to like, so not that's not that long ago.
No,
Yeah,
absolutely not.
Yeah.
Like if I look at my maybe Facebook first, that when I posted my first photo, and I remember what that first photo is, and if I try to do it in order now, it's like run group, run around for a few years, dabbled in different things that was creatively the digital stuff, but I booked a trip to go to Japan for 5 weeks backpack. I was like, I need a camera. Then I just picked up whatever camera at the time. I didn't do much research, and it was like a Sony camera. That's when mirrorless came into play, and I didn't know what to shoot at first. It's like, no, when you think when you shoot or you take photos of a vacation and you come back with 100 photos and you show your coworkers, I was like, that can't be me, right? And they're like, no, like that's not me. I was like, okay, I'll take the photos and it'll be for me. And then came back, got the trip, have photos, and then shrugged my shoulders. And I would do these things where a tempo run. So being there for 5 weeks, you could do whatever you want because you had the time. You didn't have to worry about, I got to get back.
Right.
So I would drop my bag off at a locker, and then I would run to a temple mapped out, take photos at the temple of the architecture and stuff, and then run to another one. So it'd be temple run. So I'd run like at least 5K.
Right.
Didn't do it in Tokyo, but I did it in Kyoto. And then I got to go to Mount Koya with my camera, and then I started shooting temples there as well too. And it was all architecture, so no, I still didn't have a subject, but I'm seeing all these cool buildings. And coming back off the trip, don't even worry about those photos, no big deal. And there was a race, there's a relay race in Toronto, Lululemon, and I bring my camera, let's go. And I remember people lining up and ready to go, and I was like, let me snap a photo. There was a photographer that was meant to shoot for the event.
Totally.
But I was like, yeah, why not I take my friends that are running around from the NTRC
and just shoot them.
And just shoot them, right? Because it does take some type of courage to point your camera at someone and then them asking for that photo, and you're like, it's gonna be a bad one.
Right, right.
So like some people are like, I don't want to be responsible for this photo,
Yeah.
But I was just like, whatever, we'll just try it anyways, and it's my friends. I'm not gonna point at someone I don't know, you know.
Right.
And then I started shooting, trying to figure it out. Yeah, blurry, don't work. And I started picking stuff from that. After the event, I posted a link to friends, and then they started sharing it around. Now I'm seeing my photos in their Strava photo, profile photos.
Right.
So I'm like, what? So I realized some folks haven't seen themselves running before in a running photo. They might run by a window downtown and
check themselves
out, but they never seen themselves in action.
Right.
And that was like a light bulb moment when I was just like, okay, there's something here. Whether, thank God I have a full-time job, so I didn't necessarily be like, I have to make money from this now. So I just shoot to shoot. You know, whether I'm running with my camera now in the group, shooting. And I was like, I gotta figure out a way to do this. So now I'm looking for different military tech stuff. I could put my camera in different places. And the appreciation folks would, or the feedback folks would have of a photo of themselves, I was like, man, I feel so good.
Yeah.
And I just love that gratification from it. And that's how I started taking photos. And then I realized what my subject matter was, the same places you were. Because folks that would take photos or have a camera, they're not sure what they want to shoot yet. But my tip was always like, what's around you immediately? Shoot that. Whether you walk into work every day, maybe it's the buildings. So that is like you're making the convenience of me being, because they might like, I want to take landscape photo, but do you really go hiking? Like if you don't do that, you'll never take photos.
Right, so you're never going to get better at it, you're never going to figure it out.
So do what's around you, use your surroundings. And I believe that to this day.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it's cool. And like you make a good point about like people don't know what they look like in action. And I always make this joke because the part of the reason I got into running, when I got the photos, I'm like, this is why I'm running. I'm like, I want these dope photos. And I think like a lot of people now, I'm like, I always tell people, I'm like, hey, if you're going to the race, like know where the cameras are because and
show up.
Yeah, because you want to get a good photo, right? And so like it's funny, I definitely relate to that. And like the one thing I've appreciated about looking at some of your work is like and I would love to hear your feedback on this, is like, it seems like you try to take a picture in a different light than maybe what like the race photos are being taken in, you know, like I can almost feel this emotion or like this story that's being told from some of your photos, different than when I look at, like I think the last year you shot the Toronto Marathon in May.
Yeah.
That's coming up again this year. So I ran that race.
Yes.
And then I obviously got some like photos from, like saw the photos from the race itself, but then obviously following you, I saw a lot of the photos that you shot. And it's such a different vibe.
Yeah.
And like, that's obviously intentional by you.
Yes.
So I would love to hear a little bit about like how you go through that creative process and like, what are you trying to pull out of like the photos that you're taking?
Yeah. So it starts from, for me anyways, the two different approaches. So if it's an event, you have like few seconds to grab that person, right?
Right.
Coincidentally, me being a runner, what kind of photo I would want? What motion or what stage of my I want to capture that, right? So it's don't worry, I'm not worried about too much of the technical things, because when you worry too much about what lighting's bad, is backlit, is this, you don't take photos because that's just distracting. No, if I put it down to where like it's an event, I'm gonna see, oh, Dalton's coming through, I'm gonna grab you. So I'm gonna make sure that I isolate you because you want a photo of you. Folks don't share photos that are group oriented because they're not sure if they have permission to show this other person and this. So brands, interestingly enough, want, hey, show me the crowd, show me everyone here.
Right.
But folks want a photo of themselves. So I try my best to isolate that person, full body, capture that whole motion. Now, me compared to, without mentioning names, the people that do the race photos for the events, they're matching the bib for when you actually upload it. It scans that, so you could be blinking, your eyes could. They just got to get numbers. So for them, they sit there and they have to just like hit it, and just get numbers. So you be running by, if your bib's not showing, they're not gonna hit you. But for them, it's a numbers game, so they don't necessarily worry about technique. They shoot at f8, which makes everything sharp. And I've worked with a couple before, and I realized what the whole thing is, like a whole master sheet of what you need to do. But it gets a photo, gets more people buying it, but it's not about you as a runner or how your face appear or where the sweat marks are, that type of stuff. So, but for me, where I am within the race matters as well.
Yeah.
Around the bay, unfortunately, if you're too late in the race, people are done. They're not having it.
They're not photoing well.
No, they're not photoing well. And so I learned to be where it spreads out enough, but also like you're at your highest. You're warmed up at 5, at 10 you're chilling, and if you're doing a 21K, you're not coming in for the win. After 10 you're halfway there, but I'm also gonna get your attention when you're coming through.
Because you were sitting at the top of the hill, like the one hill, right?
The one hill, yes.
Which makes sense.
It makes sense, but I had to play up the hill though. People were like really done at the hill.
But it's separate. I would imagine it separates people.
It separates folks, yes. And I could see them coming from afar away.
So you knew who's coming.
But I'm gonna come down there and I'm gonna pump you up. And then when I get, then you're like, okay, I need a little bit of light. So I'll cheer while I'm shooting at the same time. If I'm calling your name, then you're like, I'm seeing someone I recognize, so you get that. And also, that's just that interaction. When you mention about race photographers that would shoot, you may not know that person's personality, or you may not know them personally, rather, but it's just like a robot. It's just shooting, but then there's a familiarity, so you'll get a reaction from someone. So that's why not all my photos are great, but when I call and I find the one that I think you'll like this, or I'll think when you're like your hands like this now versus this, so I would not call too stringent and worry about my technique. I was like, no, they want this photo. So I'm not just taking photo, I feel like I'm giving a photo.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it changes
the dynamic for
amount,
sure.
yes.
In that moment, I would
Yes.
imagine. And I feel like now a lot of times people probably know, like they know you're at the races, right?
Yeah.
So like for me, I'm like looking for you. I'm like, where's Dre? I'm like,
Oh,
I know he's here somewhere.
Oh, that made me laugh so hard. Because sometimes I don't announce I'm going, and that's not a technique or any.
Yeah.
I maybe can't make it, or most of us are just shooting for fun.
Yeah.
And you know, there's a lot of races in Toronto. I live in Hamilton, local. Let's go. And that's the reason why I might not be at all the races. And sometimes when I go see my friend or that race crew, and I want to grab you because I know you're running it, kind of thing. And I'll track folks on my phone. It's like they're coming around. But there is an average pace, but so depending on the race, that this is the time when everyone that I kind of know is going to
come through, and you just get a bunch of good photos.
The downside of the whole thing is, and I'll tell you guys, is there are folks that I don't know. They might know of me, but they want a photo from me, but I don't know how to get them the photo. And I can say, I can just post it on my thing, but I don't know. So when I get an interaction, I was like, you must know how to get my photo, so I'll get you. So it's just this dynamic where the race photo would just shoot everyone no matter what. But there's a familiarity where I know you, so I could get the photo to you by a link, and you know how to get it. Right. But there are folks that come and wave, and I was like, I have no idea how I'm gonna get the photos.
I don't know. Yeah, if you're ever gonna get this photo,
exactly.
Maybe you'll find it.
And that's the hard part, right? So no, it's like, it's a balance.
But I think it's cool because, like, to me, it's like you're building relationships with the people that you're photographing, right?
Yes.
Like, you know,
there's a connection afterwards,
which I think makes it like, you know, maybe you don't know that person yet, like,
not yet, exactly,
but at some point maybe you will.
You've seen their faces around, familiarity. They go to a crew,
and then that relationship gets built, and then I think those photos become more meaningful. So I think it's cool. Like I like it.
It is cool.
Yeah,
I like to say my photos are like. It allows me to access spaces. Yeah. So, case in point, I may not know for a running store, I may not know the person's there, but I'd be like, hey, can I come on and take some photos? We're just gonna hang out, and you'll get the link. So be it. Just because I want to possibly interact with the folks here, just be introduced local, whether it be a physio clinic. It's like, hey, man, I want to hang out, take some photos when you guys are actually going out on a run. And that's an introduction. So using it as a vessel to be introduced, but also make relationship, as you said. And I try my best. Everyone gets a photo. Like you can't talk about community or running without anyone touch shoes and pick. Everyone gets a photo. It's contradictory to what I was saying earlier about, maybe I don't know that person and stuff, but I meant like physicality, like what they look like and stuff like that. You get a photo, like, hey, Andre, you get a photo kind of thing. It's just it's not a popularity thing. It's just like, I have to still determine if I could get that photo through you, because you may not even want the photo. Yeah. And there are folks that would take a photo, and it's not about posting it for them. They want it just to have it because it's part of a story they're trying to tell. I've had a guy came to me at Bayfront, and I didn't even remember it, but like he popped out his phone and he showed me a year difference on 2 photos I take. I was like, I didn't even notice that. But night and day.
Yeah, it's cool.
I guess he was trying to shred down, and it's just like, I'm like, wow. But it's not a person that posts this stuff. This was just for him. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I'm happy I gave that to you. Yeah. Because seeing him throughout the time, I maybe didn't notice the change, but him looking at his own photo. So some folks download it, just never post it. It was not about them showing it off. It's for them. Yeah, that's cool. And it's super dope, I think. So how did that lead to like you working with brands? Because you've worked with like some pretty well-known brands in the running space. Super lucky. Yeah, which is cool. And like I'd be curious to get your take on this too, because I'm newer to the running community, but I feel like since I've joined in the last 3 years, the transition that brands are making to having good digital content, to like bringing in people like you to highlight their companies, to get it out to the masses. Like I feel like there's a shift right now in the running community. You can see it online in the influencer space, I guess you could say. So there's a shift. And I'll tell you how I approach brand, but I'll tell you what the shift is first. So the brand are mostly from the States. They would get actual images from headquarters, and it's like Boulder, Colorado.
Yeah.
And it's trail running. And they'll post that photo for a Canadian version of that brand. It's like, but that's not my local area. Like,
there's no like resonation.
Exactly,
there, yeah.
exactly. So now they're recognizing that, hey, let's shoot folks that are from the community in the space I recognize, and that'll hit better because the local running store wants to share a photo of the local running store, not somewhere else.
Right.
And it might have looked cool back then, but now they're realizing like, yeah, I could hire a local photographer here, shoot something that's local, and I recognize that bridge, and then now I have more of a connection with that brand to purchase their item. At the end of the day, they want to just sell something than just a generic photo from Switzerland.
Right.
Those still work, you know?
Yeah.
Those
But
still work.
that makes sense for sure.
So that's the shift that you're seeing. And also, when a brand don't show up in the space, or when they do show up in the space, is great. Where they come to a shakeout, whether they have they host a race, that's like, okay, they're here. They care about what really happens here, you know, because they've hosted a shoe trial to let us try their product. They're speaking to us now. When they just don't do any of that, you might have a loyalty to a brand because your parents used to buy the XYZ brand before, and then you just got it and you liked it. Yeah. But then you have a store and you never host a run. You never shake out anything, you know what I mean? So when brands do that, it makes it that much more important. For me, you know, when I'm taking photos or even working with a brand, a lot of them, that's their profession. They work at the company. They're usually a marketing person, sometimes field folks that are doing tech, or they're tech rep that will make you try a shoe on. The thing is, that's their profession. Now, if you're from the community and run into the space, you could show them the other perspective of what we're feeling when we're working with you or we're not working with you. So I would pitch them ideas in order to get that connection, because they are most of them are 9 to 5, go home afterwards, and they might not come out to run because it gets really a gray area where you're thinking that professionals should just come run with us every day, but it's like, nah, this is work. I just gotta supply the store. So you try to think of why they don't integrate well with just folks that we're running recreationally for fun. Yeah, most of us are anyways. And then to just tell them like, hey, you guys should know everything about the community. No, I was at work. Yeah. So what you get to toy around, but there's like, yeah, but we have to make that running store carry our item. Like there is still that. But on this side of it, we're just like, yeah, no, you should know everything about this person. So no, when you make that connection for them, it's easier for them to accept like, oh yes, let's do a shoot with a local legend, XYZ, outfit them, shoot them, and then you're pitching them ideas on how to integrate with us. And if you're not saying anything, then they just won't do anything, right? They're just thinking about what they need to do sales-wise, because that's what they could measure. The pitching I'm doing over here is more lifestyle, recreational. I'm not going to tell you your product's going to sell. I'm trying to just give you a look at some assets. Yeah,
some more awareness.
Some awareness, integration, but then if no one says anything to them about that, then nothing comes about.
Right.
So now they see that there's such a thing that you could just photograph folks and trade for product, trade for actual money, and then another brand may want to do that, and that type of stuff. So that's kind of the way I think about it before just assuming like I'm over here with my camera, how come no brand's hiring me? No, you have to pitch them the idea.
Totally, you have to show them
reach
why
out.
It's worth it.
The most they can say is no.
Yeah.
like no. All right, cool. Next year, and know when their budget times are. it's important. Like April, knowing they're having major races tied in with something that's happening local, then it matters. Like you have big waterfront marathon coming up, so you could say, hey, can we do XYZ? And I know I keep being generic. I'm afraid of just calling brands as if I'm targeting them. But you can pitch them ideas based on things that are coming up that they may not even know about.
Right.
You know, a local race here in Hamilton. Hey, it'd be cool if you guys give us some products to prize, and we'll make sure we get photos of XYZ. And that's kind of how you tied it.
Yeah, which is cool. And I think that's like good for a place like Hamilton where there's such a good community and like the run groups and the quality of runners here is wild. Like
unreal.
Yeah, and I think like what's great about having someone like you who can bridge that gap is like hopefully you show these companies and these brands like what is here, and then they're going to be more apt to like host shakeout runs like you're talking about. And like we were kind of talking before the podcast started about like integrating races into the community and have them try to like, you know, build more of a relationship with the communities that are here, because like that's what's going to drive the races to be even better, right?
100%. And invite others, new faces to you're introducing a new group of folks to a particular brand because I see you now. You know, we assume, even us as runners, you run, you know about CLE hats, you know about this, but they don't.
No.
They literally don't. The assumption is, but no, when you also event, CLE is having Shakeout, or Exact Nutrition is having, so you could sample their actual electrolyte drink, then you're like, that's who you are. Yeah, okay, no, I know. You know, I don't assume the folks just already know who you are, especially even in a race, a marathon, or even around the bay, where 90% of the people that are running there aren't elite. They buy all the stuff. They're just the mom and pop, for lack of a better term, just runner. And they don't know about the cool niche, satisfied running. They don't, and maybe they buy it, just go to the store, listen to a rep, get a Hoka, go run. They're not concerned about what version that is and all that stuff. So what I'm trying to say to you is we could get speaking into our own little circle, but really there's other folks that aren't aware.
How do we bring more people? And you get kind of stuck in a little bit of your silo.
You know, and they're, you know, maybe they don't care, but then they all there supporting you. So you're supposed to be able to, you know, help them along, you know, connect them with the things that you're wanting them to purchase.
Yeah, for sure. I want to maybe circle into like back to running a little bit here. Like, what has been some of your favorite like running events that you've done?
Oh man, not necessarily I hosted, but I've been to. So
like that you've raced.
Oh man, let's do it this way. How about stuff that I've been a part of that's just life changing. And then we'll get into races.
I'm game.
So the stuff that we made up ourselves. So I've been lucky to be invited to run from Toronto to Chicago. I was reading about that. Relay, right? And that was founded by Quentin Jacobs and Anoke. They had this idea because they've run to New York before. And that's for a charity, and they did that. And then that year I went and celebrated and cheered with them to kick them off, and they do a run with folks to kick it off. And then the following year, like nudged me like, hey, you could be a part of this team. I was like, oh man, for real? I knew I was able to run because I've run like 65K, but it wasn't even about the distance or anything else. You know, Quentin and Noco always like, it's just a vibe. You're just hanging out because you're waiting around for the next person to run anyways. So that's been life-changing because I get to take that with me. Some things just are fleeting. They just come and go kind of stuff, but like I'll always remember that. So that's why I mean, like, if you talk about the stuff that you just kind of pull together and you didn't wait on a race to happen, then go register, you just literally, you could get a couple of your buddies and it's like, where have we run? And we go run around PEC. Let's run the entire length of the Millennial Trail in Prince Edward County. I think maybe I done that with my buddy Mo, but he's made that up, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, you did a challenge. It's not a David Goggins thing. It's just like, because you're locally using the space that's around you, you can create something for yourself. And I think you appreciate that more than a speed project, which is already set. People know the route. You have to be invited and all these things, but like, why don't I do a speed project here?
Just do your own.
Just do your own thing. So those I appreciate way more. In terms of races, I got the chance to go run in Alaska.
Oh, dang.
And there's a mountain race in Alaska. There's a series of them anyway, Cirque series, and Alaska was a location. And I got invited out by a brand because of a not-for-profit that we run. And I'm scared of heights. I was like, I had no idea. I was like, all right, I want a lifetime. Let's go.
Yeah.
And I got to go with Quentin. And then I was like, okay, if I just look forward, I'll get this done. And it's not even long. It was like 8K, 9K, but it was over a mountain ridge, about 3,000 feet of elevation. And I mapped it out, and I'm watching videos, and I'm like, yeah, I'm scared myself. Let's just go. The highlight for that trip was when I was holding on to like just a piece of chain, and there was like a fall off.
Yeah.
And I just looked this way. I just kept doing that, and there was a guy behind me, and he's like, "Yo, why don't you just let people go by?" And I'm like, "Man, I'm doing this race too, man." I was like, "Let's go." Why that was, exciting for me was just like, I did something that I didn't think I would do because of the height stuff, right? And thank God there was a lot of cloud coverage, but I just kept my head straight, got that done, and Reed's coaching me, and then I got it done. But that was a highlight. And the longest race was my third thing, 65K in Quebec. Haricana, yeah. And that was, I got loopy. I was like, I'm arguing with the aid station, and I was like, man, I got 13 more K to go, man. It's gonna be great. And I was like, listen, you got 7K, it's all right. And I was like, no, for real. So no, I'm like, just delusional, because like I'm out there running by myself, and let me tell you, you'd be so surprised how much you're capable of. I never done that distance before, but now you're in the mountainsides. I had a plan where I would write the different with a Sharpie, the different markers, so I'd not have to do math in my head how far the next actual aid station is and stuff. And then they have really good stuff, like the bib had the elevation on it and the distance, so you can look at your bib and like, okay, I'm at 18.
Kinda know where you are.
I know I gotta climb another ridge, so conserve your energy. So those are the three things. So the relay races that I got to run to Chicago. And there's a scary part there, running to Chicago. Oh my God. Running through Gary, Indiana late at night. Like, this is where they lynch people, like, no joke.
Yeah, it's wild.
Wow. But I didn't realize, like, it's afterwards. I was like, oh, I'm Canadian, it's so fine. But
it's like,
it could have been bad.
Yeah.
and then Hurricane. Yeah, so those are like the highlights. But yeah. Those are the highlights. That's
cool. There's two things that really stand out to me. In like the one thing you said is like doing something that you never thought you could do before, and I think that at its core is like the coolest thing about running.
Yep.
And it can span from you being someone who's run for however many years, and the person that just started running.
Yep.
That same feeling of like, oh, I never thought I'd be able to run a 5K.
Yes.
And you did, and you can get that feeling. And then for you, climbing on the side of a mountain.
Yeah, exactly, right?
It's like you never thought you would ever do something.
No.
So like, I think that feeling is like what really draws people to running. They may not realize it until they actually experience it. And then once they experience it, I feel like that becomes what you chase.
Trajectory, it pushes you, right? I do find that your relationship with running and what you do it for changes, just like if you're my photographer. So at first it was to, get away first 5K, as we said. And then it becomes where like, oh, everyone keeps talking about doing a race. I'll do a race. Get your race and get first medal. You get beat by the bug. And then you get into a corner. It's like, people are talking about training because we got to do time. Get into training.
Yeah.
And then you change what you do. And unfortunately, sometimes you lose the fun part about it, because now you're like, you gotta get a time, because that's the new thing to do now. Like, you forgot about everything you went through just now to get where you are. Now you're you're not humble anymore. No, you're like, I gotta get this time. I was like, man, why don't you just enjoy it again? Because once you go up there and you're there now, you don't want to come back and like, let's go for a fun run. You actually don't want that because you're like, oh, I know I'm capable, but it's like you can't dial it back. And I've seen that off elites. I've seen that off people that podium, because no, they can't just go to a race and then if they don't podium, they just DNF, because like my last record was like I was up here.
I can't be like 50th.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. But it's like, oh, you don't even enjoy it anymore.
Yeah.
So,
it's a good, the point that I want to say too that you made that I think is awesome is like you talk about just like going and creating these moments of community, and like you can just go do this relay run wherever, right? Yeah. And I think that is important for me to hear right now where I'm in my running journey. It's something that I've really loved about running is it's really brought me both a sense of joy and competition again that I never thought I would have from like other sports. And so I've been really trying to like marry the two, where it's like I still get so much joy out of running in general, but like I'm a competitive person and I want to get better. But it's important to remember like to not forget about that joyful part and like having moments of like, hey, let's just go like you asked me to go do a relay race to run to Chicago. It's
and
like,
you're not worried about your training.
All right, let's go. Like this is a good opportunity. Like I think it's important to remember that.
And look out for that stuff, because once you stop doing that, your body start pushing back, and now you're just depressed.
Totally.
Because
you get burnt out, right? And then you end up DNFing in a race because you're not going to podium, and that's not a good place. That's probably not a good place to be.
And I've seen it even the same trail races. So many people just DNF, dropped out, because if they're passed by their rivals or someone that they beat last year, why am I going to run the rest of it? That's what I really think. I was like, I will kill myself, like actually, and become fourth, So I've seen it happen over and over and over, but also just like even my own journey. It's just like I know what my limits are and I want to enjoy it for a longer time. So why go to a limit where I don't want to touch, and then know I'm like injured, whatever the case may be, and then I don't get to enjoy it anymore. So it's like, can I have the longevity by just still keeping that joy inside of it? I could still gain and be better than an average person if I still balance both. You know what I mean? You'll still be faster than the person that just started.
Yeah, you'll still keep
and there'll be somebody else still faster than you.
Yeah.
So stay within that little place, man. Yeah. Just enjoy that.
Yeah, it's a good point. I could go on forever about this stuff, but I want to transition to a couple rapid fire questions, and then we'll wrap up.
No worries.
So being local to Hamilton now, we can talk a little bit of Toronto too. I know you spent a lot of time there.
Let's talk Hamilton.
What would be like one of your favorite local coffee shops here in Hamilton?
Man, I was just talking about that just now. Rooney's.
I've never heard of that.
Oh yeah, you're missing out. So
clearly,
going towards Gage, there's a little shop there, Rooney's. They are an art gallery as well.
Okay.
So they change installation every month, let's say. And I'm supposed to have an exhibit there in January. So local artists that aren't local as well, and then they sell photo books as well there.
Oh, that's sweet.
But they go in there, it's a whole different scene, like each time. Yeah, so Rooney's.
Okay, yeah, have to check that out.
Yeah, you can run to it.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
Yeah.
What would be one of your favorite local restaurants?
Restaurants. So if I were to go have grubs now, okay, sandwich right now, Artie's is killing it. Killing the sandwiches right now, like so good. If I were to eat Merit. Straight up.
Merit's sausages and their fries, dude, are so good there.
Yeah,
and it's such a good vibe in that place.
It is a good vibe.
That's what makes it like.
Yeah, Tage knows what's up. He's
I've heard good things about the.
He's a fellow runner. He used to have a run crew and all that stuff, so he gets it. Right?
I talked about this with I don't know if you know Dre.Run. He owns Andiamo.
Yes.
He brought up Merit. I'm like, yeah, that's where I took my girlfriend on our first date. We're still together. It's like it's a vibe.
I love that. It's so local. I love love that.
Yeah.
I just saw Dre the other day. He's dabbling. He wants to get into running hard.
Yeah, I know.
Something's gonna click, and he's
slowly,
gonna be like,
he's getting off his bike and going on to
I don't want to talk about much, but I think it's because he's very competitive. He's worried that he's gonna come and just like ruin his leg.
I could see that happening.
Yeah, he would do that.
What would be like one of your favorite like local trails to run on? Like where's that at?
Oh man, I have so many. I'm working on some material right now. I won't even reveal it yet, but I love the rail path that go to Bradford because it's just falls flat. You just long run, get it done, and you could just off into the trail in Dundas. And it's covered like for most part of it anyways. But there's so much good trails.
It's endless.
Trails.
Yeah, it's not a fair question to ask.
No, it's not.
There's a
but
ton of,
I still have a favorite, right? You know what I mean? But
yeah.
I could tell you, then somewhere here in Dundas. But that is like trusty. You just get on it, go, and you're gonna make it to the pipe and double back. You know that 6K, you get 12 by the end of it, where you come back to Fairweather.
Yeah.
But it won't disappoint you.
Yeah,
when
for
it's
sure.
snowing, whatever time of year, you get it done.
It's a reliable spot.
It's a reliable spot.
What would be like favorite place to like run like road? Like, do you have a favorite kind of section?
To do road?
Yeah.
There is quite a bit of just like long country road here, even coming out to Dundas, that I love so much. But I would probably say, this is not even like a road, but you know what, Bayfront.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Bayfront, if you get it at the right time of day, when sun's going down and you're coming underneath the bridge and then the sun's coming at you, and you get to around Princess Point.
It's hard to beat it, and it's funny you bring that up because it's been a while since I've been out to run at Bayfront, but on Tuesday of last week I went out to run out there, and it was the most beautiful day. Yes. It was so calm, sunny, and I'm like, why? And Bayfront's one of my favorite places in general in Hamilton.
You're like, why did I come here more?
Exactly. I'm like, dude, I should be running here way more.
No, exactly. You can't get tired of it either.
Yeah. The last question I'd like to ask everyone is like, what does the words like move local mean to you specifically?
For me specifically, move local. There is this thing where I'm inviting folks from Toronto to show them Hamilton. And I'm like, let's just get a Sobe bike, and then I'll go to a brewery with you. So I'm always asking them to do something physical because I want to show them the space. So moving local to me is to invite others to experience this, because we're so lucky for the space that we have. And the other part of that is I worked on a project to shoot or take photographs of athletes here in Hamilton. And it was no problem finding people that cycle, to run, row, like literally row, and they climb as well. So having all those different facets here locally in Hamilton was just so easy. Okay. So that's what Move Local meant to me. Like, people do every sport here, every single sport. Like, I'm blown away. Like, that's based on the other things I see people use the path for. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Dre, I appreciate this time, man. It's been awesome to connect. It's been fun. So I've always like appreciated seeing you out there and seeing your photos, so I'm glad that we got to sit down. If you want to let people know where they can like find your Instagram, your website, whatever.
Dre.Run. But keep it simple like that.
Easy. All right, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. Appreciate it. We'll see you in the next one.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thanks, man. That was awesome.
I know. I think we could talk forever.
Easily, dude. I was like, I could be here for like 2 hours.